The rich tapestry of Native American history is a story often overlooked by the broader narrative of United States history, one that is interwoven with profound stories of heroism, resilience, and leadership. Native American chiefs and leaders were not only warriors. They were diplomats, visionaries, and fierce protectors of their peoples. They fought tirelessly against overwhelming odds to preserve their lands, cultures, and identities in the face of colonial encroachment and violence. Their legacies are not merely tales of struggle, but also of resilience and an unwavering spirit that continues to inspire today. In revisiting the lives of 10 of the greatest Native American leaders, we gain insight into their remarkable journeys, which defied injustice and oppression. These leaders, each unique in their approach, represent the enduring spirit of Native American communities. These are not just stories of warfare, but also of diplomacy, community building, and the tireless effort to safeguard the cultural and spiritual heritage of their nations. Their efforts shaped their communities, and in many ways, their actions continue to resonate in the modern fight for Native American rights and recognition. 1. Victorio, the unyielding Apache warrior. Born in 1809 in the arid lands of present-day New Mexico, Victorio rose to prominence as the leader of the Chiricahua Apache during a time of unprecedented upheaval. The U.S. government and Mexico's aggressive expansion led to the dispossession and destruction of Victorio's people. From a young age, he witnessed the violence inflicted upon his nation, fueling a relentless desire to resist colonization and preserve his people's way of life. Victorio was known for his exceptional leadership and military brilliance. Despite being outnumbered, he was a master tactician, often outsmarting much larger U.S. and Mexican forces with hit-and-run tactics. He made strategic raids into Mexican territory and even across U.S. borders, leveraging the harsh desert terrain to his advantage. His ability to command a small band of fighters against larger, better-equipped armies made him one of the most respected Apache leaders. In 1869, after his band was forced into a reservation, Victorio quickly realized that the designated land, known as Hell's 40 Acres, was inhospitable. Refusing to accept such a degrading offer, he led his people in a return to resistance. He became a symbol of defiance, as he rejected the idea of his people being confined to barren lands. Victorio's life came to an end in 1880 in the Tres Castillos Mountains, surrounded by Mexican troops. Some accounts say he was killed in battle, while others suggest that, facing inevitable capture, he took his own life rather than be subdued. His sister, Lozan, a revered warrior and spiritual leader, is an important part of his legacy. According to Apache tradition, Lozan was gifted with the ability to sense enemy movements, which proved invaluable in guiding and protecting the Apache people. Together, Victorio and Lozan embodied the resilience of the Apache nation, demonstrating the importance of leadership rooted in both military strategy and spiritual strength. 2. Chief Cornstalk, the peacemaker with a haunting legacy. Born around 1720, Chief Cornstalk was a leader of the Shawnee tribe and one of the most influential Native American diplomats during the 18th century. His life spanned an era of constant conflict, as European settlers and American colonists encroached upon his people's ancestral lands. Cornstalk was known for his ability to balance diplomacy with defense, often seeking peaceful solutions to the growing tension between settlers and Native Americans. His most significant role was as an ally of the French during the French and Indian War, where he fought against British expansion. In 1774, during Lord Dunmore's War, Cornstalk led the Shawnee against colonial militias. After a bloody conflict, he signed a peace treaty with the colonists, agreeing to cede Shawnee land south of the Ohio River. Despite honoring the treaty, many of his people refused to accept the loss of their homeland, which led to further unrest. Cornstalk's adherence to the treaty did not save him, as in 1777, he was betrayed by the very settlers he had tried to make peace with. Cornstalk visited an American fort to warn of an impending attack by other tribes, but was imprisoned and later murdered. The betrayal and murder of Chief Cornstalk marked a tragic and pivotal moment in the history of Native American resistance. His death became a symbol of the broken promises and the betrayal that characterized U.S. relations with Native nations. In the 20th century, the eerie legend of the Mothman in West Virginia became associated with Cornstalk's death, with some claiming that his spirit placed a curse on the land, cementing his name in local folklore. 3. Blackhawk, the relentless defender of his people. Born in 1767 in Virginia, Blackhawk was the leader of the Sauk tribe, who became one of the most famous Native American warriors in history. He led his people during a time of dramatic loss and forced relocation, refusing to accept the fraudulent treaties that ceded Sauk lands to the United States. Blackhawk's leadership was characterized by his commitment to preserving the Sauk people's autonomy and resisting U.S. expansion. His military efforts gained national attention during the War of 1812 when he allied with the British against the United States. However, it was the Black Hawk War of 1832 that solidified his place in history. When the U.S. government forced his people off their lands in Illinois, Black Hawk led a band of over 1,000 men, women, and children back to their ancestral lands. The conflict, though brief, was devastating for the Sauk, and Black Hawk's forces were decimated by the U.S. military. Captured in 1833, Black Hawk spent his remaining years as a prisoner of war. While he was disgraced among his people, the American public revered him as a hero, and his autobiography became widely popular. His personal account provided a rare and valuable perspective on the events from the point of view of a Native leader. Black Hawk's refusal to accept the loss of his people's land and his resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity became a rallying cry for Native American resistance in the 19th century. For Tecumseh, the visionary who united nations, Tecumseh, born in 1768 in the Ohio Valley, was the leader of the Shawnee who sought to unite the disparate Native American tribes into a powerful confederation capable of resisting U.S. expansion. Unlike many Native leaders who focused on protecting individual tribes, Tecumseh had a grand vision for a united resistance. He believed that Native Americans could only protect their lands and way of life by putting aside tribal differences and forming a unified front against the U.S. In his early years, Tecumseh joined his brother Tenskwatawa, known as the Prophet, in the spiritual revival movement. Together they founded Prophetstown in Indiana, a center for their growing coalition of tribes. During the War of 1812, Tecumseh allied with the British against the United States, seeing it as an opportunity to weaken U.S. territorial ambitions. Despite his military prowess and diplomatic efforts, Tecumseh's vision was ultimately shattered when he was killed at the Battle of the Thames in 1813. Tecumseh's death marked the collapse of his confederation, but his legacy as a visionary leader endures. His efforts to unite the tribes served as an inspiration for future generations of Native American leaders, and his life remains a symbol of indigenous resistance against colonialism. Tecumseh's eloquent speeches calling for unity and his unwavering commitment to protecting Native sovereignty continue to resonate with Native American communities today. 5. Geronimo, the face of Apache resistance. Born in 1829, Geronimo became one of the most well-known figures in Native American history, largely due to his fierce resistance against U.S. and Mexican forces. Geronimo was a leader of the Chiricahua Apache and became famous for his incredible tactical abilities in battle. His life was marked by personal tragedy. Mexican soldiers killed his wife and children, which sparked his unrelenting desire for vengeance and led to a lifelong campaign of resistance. Geronimo's early campaigns were marked by numerous raids and escape attempts, and he quickly became a symbol of defiance in the Apache struggle for independence. His battles were often fought against overwhelming odds, but his knowledge of the land and his leadership made him a formidable adversary. In 1886, after years of pursuit, Geronimo finally surrendered to U.S. forces. However, even in captivity, his legend only grew, and he became a symbol of the Apache spirit. In the later years of his life, Geronimo toured the United States as part of Wild West shows, where he met with President Theodore Roosevelt in an attempt to secure a return of his people's lands. His final words before his death in 1909 were a reflection of his regret. "I should never have surrendered. I should have fought until I was the last man alive." 6. Crazy Horse, the fearless Lakota warrior. Born in 1840, Crazy Horse was one of the most celebrated and revered warriors of the Lakota Sioux. He is best remembered for his key role in the Battle of the Little Big Horn in 1876, one of the most significant victories for Native Americans during the era of U.S. expansion. Crazy Horse's leadership was defined by his tactical brilliance and his unyielding determination to protect the Black Hills, a sacred area to the Lakota Sioux. In the years leading up to the Battle of Little Big Horn, Crazy Horse united several Native tribes to resist the growing number of U.S. settlers encroaching on their lands. His leadership culminated in the stunning defeat of General Custer and his forces, marking the Battle of Little Big Horn as a monumental moment in Native American history. Despite this victory, the U.S. military eventually employed a strategy of total war, destroying villages and driving Native peoples into reservations. Crazy Horse was forced to surrender in 1877, and he was killed while in custody in 1877, allegedly while resisting imprisonment. Though his life was short, Crazy Horse remains an enduring symbol of Lakota resistance, and his bravery continues to inspire Native American communities today. 7. Chief Seattle, the leader of peace and wisdom. Born in 1790 in the lush, forested region of present-day Washington state, Chief Seattle was a leader of the Duwamish and Suquamish tribes. Renowned for his wisdom and diplomatic abilities, Seattle sought peaceful coexistence with settlers and believed in the possibility of cooperation between Native peoples and Americans. His leadership was characterized by a deep respect for nature and a belief in the spiritual connection between humans and the land. In the 1850s, Seattle welcomed American settlers into the Puget Sound region, offering them land in exchange for fair treatment of his people. He believed that cooperation, rather than conflict, would allow Native Americans to preserve their way of life in the face of overwhelming pressure. However, as settlers flooded the region, Seattle's vision for peaceful coexistence was increasingly tested. Tensions between Native tribes and settlers escalated, leading to conflicts over land and resources. One of Chief Seattle's most famous moments in history is his purported speech, which, despite its widespread recognition, was largely fabricated. The speech, which stresses the deep connection between humans and the earth, is often mistakenly attributed to him. However, Seattle's true legacy as a leader of peace endures. His belief in diplomacy and his ability to foresee the inevitable hardships that would come with the influx of settlers demonstrate his foresight and wisdom. His name lives on in the city of Seattle, which was named in his honor, serving as a reminder of his contributions to peace and unity. 8. Cochise, the Apache leader who fought for freedom. Cochise, born in the early 1800s, stands as one of the most formidable Apache leaders in the 19th century. A towering figure both physically and symbolically, Cochise became a central figure in the Apache resistance against U.S. military incursions. Standing over 6 feet tall, Cochise embodied both strength and tactical genius. His leadership was crucial during a time of growing violence, betrayal, and land theft, as settlers and U.S. forces encroached on Apache territory in present-day Arizona. In 1861, Cochise was falsely accused of kidnapping a white child, an accusation that sparked the start of a bloody conflict between the Apache and the U.S. military. Over the course of the next decade, Cochise led his people in a guerrilla campaign, using the rugged mountains and deserts of the Southwest as a natural fortress. His intimate knowledge of the terrain made Cochise nearly impossible to defeat in direct combat, and his raids on U.S. settlements and supply lines became legendary. Eventually, Cochise brokered a peace agreement with the U.S. government, securing a reservation for his people in their ancestral lands. Though Cochise's death in 1874 marked the end of an era, his legacy lived on through his leadership. He left behind a powerful symbol of resistance and the resilience of the Apache people in the face of constant persecution. Cochise's unyielding determination to protect his people's freedom remains a central part of Apache history. 9. Sitting Bull, the spiritual leader of the Lakota. Born in 1831, Sitting Bull became one of the most revered figures in Native American history. As the spiritual leader and chief of the Hunkpapa Lakota Sioux, Sitting Bull was known not only for his military leadership, but also for his deep spiritual connection to his people. He was a visionary who believed in the preservation of Lakota culture and sovereignty, fiercely resisting U.S. expansion into his people's sacred lands. Sitting Bull's most famous victory came at the Battle of the Little Bighorn in 1876, where he played a pivotal role in uniting various tribes against General George Custer's forces. The victory at Little Bighorn became a symbol of Native American resistance, but it was also a fleeting triumph. The U.S. government responded with increasing military force, using tactics of destruction to force tribes onto reservations. After the defeat of Custer's army, Sitting Bull fled to Canada, where he spent several years in exile. However, by 1881, starvation and harsh conditions forced him to return to the U.S. He was placed on a reservation, but his spirit of defiance was unbroken. In 1890, as the ghost dance movement swept across Native American communities, fears that Sitting Bull might lead a rebellion led to his arrest. During the confrontation with U.S. authorities, Sitting Bull was killed, marking the end of an era of Lakota resistance. Sitting Bull's death symbolized the crushing of Native resistance to U.S. expansion, but his legacy endures as a symbol of spiritual strength and leadership. His life and his commitment to his people's survival continue to inspire generations of Native Americans. 10. Mangus Colorado, the towering Apache leader. Born around 1797, Mangus Colorado was a towering figure in Apache history. As the leader of the Western Apache, Mangus Colorado played a critical role in uniting the various Apache bands to resist both Mexican and American military incursions. His leadership was instrumental in organizing the Apache response to the ever-expanding frontier of settlers and soldiers who encroached upon their lands. Mangus Colorado initially allied with the U.S. during the Mexican-American War, but this alliance quickly crumbled when gold was discovered in Apache territory. The U.S. military's exploitation of this discovery led to betrayal, and in 1863, Mangus Colorado was lured into a meeting under a flag of truce, only to be captured and killed by U.S. forces. His death was a tragic moment that fueled Apache resistance for years to come. Mangus Colorado's legacy is one of defiance and strength, embodying the spirit of the Apache people in their fight for survival. His leadership, marked by his physical and symbolic stature, continues to serve as a source of pride for Apache communities today. These 10 leaders: Victorio, Chief Cornstalk, Blackhawk, Tecumseh, Geronimo, Crazy Horse, Chief Seattle, Cochise, Sitting Bull, and Mangus Colorado represent the unbreakable spirit of Native American resistance against centuries of oppression, land theft, and cultural destruction. Each of these leaders faced insurmountable odds, but continued to fight for the survival of their people, their cultures, and their lands. Their legacies, though often marked by tragedy and loss, serve as testaments to the resilience and determination of Native communities throughout history. The stories of these great leaders are not merely tales of struggle, but also powerful reminders of the importance of leadership, unity, and cultural preservation. Despite the immense challenges they faced, their actions continue to inspire and teach us about the value of resistance, the preservation of identity, and the courage to stand against injustice. Their stories, while often tragic, are not only central to the history of the United States, but also to the broader narrative of human perseverance. The enduring legacy of Native American leaders provides a rich tapestry of history that offers valuable lessons for us all, reminding us that true leadership is not only about victory, but about integrity, vision, and an unwavering commitment to the people you lead.